Everyone knows on Dawson's Corner, this is the best place to go for all of your gambling needs when it comes to the UFC. That's why today we're telling you the guys that are going to sell your parlay. Never put one of these guys in your parlays ever again.
And we're speaking from experience. Some of these guys have ruined nights.
Bet365 loves to give me like a little bit of like a couple quarters here and there, and then I'll cook up like a 10-leg parlay. These are the guys that sell it.
Exactly. All right, we finally ranked a video, so we're going from 10 all the way number 1 based on how likely they are to sell your parlay. All right, so starting off at number 10, this is where I got Vicente Luque. This guy will win when he's not supposed to and lose when he's not supposed to. Like he'll lose against Joaquin Buckley when it's like, all right, you got to beat this guy, back when we didn't know the level of Joaquin Buckley. And then he'll win against Temba Garimbo, where it's like this young up-and-comer Vicente Luque.
Welterweight Francis Ngannou.
Exactly. And then Luque will just, lock in a submission and call it a day.
One round.
It just feels like he always does the opposite of what I expect him to do.
Yeah. My number 10, this is like the personal two. This is a tie for number 10. It's Pereira and Adesanya. Because I have personal...
Adesanya is so real.
Adesanya... is like 3-fight losing skid, but like, and then it's gonna be like next fight everyone's gonna be against Adesanya. He's just gonna pull it a win.
Yeah, first round KO.
Pereira, like they've just both lost me some big parlays. Like I had a Pereira. I had one for 313. Was that the last card?
Yeah,
23 times my money if he would have won.
And you only need him to win.
I only needed him to win.
And he sold.
Didn't even need to be KO. Just needed Pereira to win. 23 times my money. I had an Adesanya parlay. I swear it was like 20 cents to win $10. Adesanya versus Imavov last leg sold.
Mm-hmm. I was actually confident in Adesanya
against Imavov. I was like, oh, there's no way he loses this Imavov guy. Yeah. He's buns.
All right, moving on to number 9. So I got Marlon Vera. Another very similar case to Vicente Luque, where when this guy needs to lock in a win, there's no shot he's winning. And when he needs to, and when he's supposed to lose, he will land a head kick KO. When he's going up against Sean O'Malley in the first fight, and Sean O'Malley flukes a nerve-ending damage, like that was Marlon Vera channeling energy. Like he did that. And then against Dominic Cruz, another one where it's like he should have lost that fight and then randomly gets a head kick KO. Against Figgy, flyweight moving up, he should be winning that fight. Loses a decision, gets knocked down. Like, what are we doing here, bro? You gotta start like being more predictable so I can actually bet money on you.
Yeah. All right, my next guy, sort of Stephen Thompson, and I think his fight with Buckley is a perfect example. It's like, it's like, it's 2025. Can you still bet on Stephen Thompson, on this guy to win? And it's like, oh, you could say he was beating Thompson or he was beating Buckley in that fight, boom, one shot to the head, dead.
Shadow round.
Gone, whoever he's gonna fight next, it's gonna be like, oh, he's probably gonna be up after going to the third round. Boom, chin, gone.
That's the thing I hate about those types of fighters, because they can be technically more skilled. I feel like this is what's happening to Volk right now. He might be another guy who's technically more skilled, but the chin
just gives out.
Yeah, you're just like on pins and needles the entire time you're watching the fight, because at any second your parlay could be on the ground sleeping.
Yeah.
All right, number 8. This is where I got Yair Rodriguez. Fluky McFlukester will get the most random highlight KO of all time and go absolutely crazy, have all the hype in the world, get a shot for the belt 3 times, and then just never lock in another win. Like, he's one of those guys where you're expecting him to be this up-and-comer who can be a staple of the top 5. But I think now we've kind of realized, like, he'll be one of those guys who it's 1 win, 1 loss, 1 win, 1 loss, 2 wins, 2 losses. Like, I don't think he's ever going to be one of those guys. And I think he's the way that he fights, it's very unsafe to predict him. Yeah. Especially, like, by decision. I can't trust him to outpoint someone. Yeah. When he just tries, and it's like when he fights, he's actively thinking about the weirdest way to KO someone. He's run through his head like, okay, what hasn't been done in the UFC before, and he'll try and do that.
How can it blow up on TikTok?
Exactly. What will people like to clip?
All right, my next guy, Cody Garbrandt. This guy, as much as you love him, that's a theme, is I think on my list, a lot of chinny fighters. You know, you just can't trust these guys.
No.
To put him in your parlay, you know. And every time you'll be like, you know what, he's got it this time. This is Garbrandt. He's locking in for this one. You know, he did it once, he can do it again. You know. Nope. Because he's probably gonna be stoned or drunk, and he fights like he's stoned and drunk. Probably stoned and drunk.
Yeah. New tattoo every fight.
Yeah.
Cody Garbrandt's just never put him on your parlay.
Well, next time.
Next time
he will. He's due.
Him versus Peyton Talbot, though?
He's due.
We'll be picking him. For my number, what are we, number 7? This is where I got Curtis Blades.
Ooh, Mr. Curtis.
I feel like he would have lost to Rizvan Kuniev somehow, you know? And I did have this...
They're just going to keep rebooking that fight.
I feel like I made this list before that fight, and I was going to take him on or off depending if he won or lost. But I just feel like anytime there's a fight where, you know, Jailton Almeida. Jailton Almeida is one of the most skilled heavyweights in terms of what he can actually do. Like jiu-jitsu, no one else can beat Jailton Almeida. But then Curtis Blades decides to just elbow him in the side of the head, and Almeida he stands there. Like, he just stands there, bro, and takes it. And then all of a sudden he's out, and you're like, what happened? Curtis Blades just KO'd the biggest up-and-comer.
Curtis Blades fighting for the belt now.
Yeah, exactly. And then against the first Tom Aspinall fight, it's like Curtis Blades wins, and he does this is not a racial thing. He does the Donkey Kong emote in Smash Bros. And goes like that. Like, I'll put it up on screen. Curtis Blades will sell your parlay. Never bet on this man. He's also chinny.
Yeah.
He's one of those guys who's just chinny now. So it's heavyweight. I wouldn't place a bet on heavyweight anyways.
Yeah, you never know what's actually going to happen in that.
Yeah. Like, I feel like in a rematch against Pavlovich, he could win.
Yeah. And 2025 Pavlovich is dog water.
Yeah, bro. He'd probably win that fight, and I'd bet against him.
Yeah. All right, next guy up for me, Iron Mike Chandler. Maybe the most unpredictable fighter inside of the UFC. You know, although he's like 2-5 now inside of the UFC, you actually don't know what this guy's gonna do.
Yeah.
You know, because you can have that first round KO or some first round magic, or he can just be a stinker for 5 rounds.
Dude, I would have put so much money that the Charles versus Chandler fight didn't go the distance. And then I would have lost $1 million. Like, seriously though, like, who would have predicted that?
He is so just unique with how he fights that you just don't actually know what he's gonna do in his fight. Like him versus Patty, I have no idea how that fight's gonna go. Like, if you ask me to tell you how that fight's gonna play out, I have no clue.
Chandler by submission.
You don't know.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
He fights like a gorilla. All right, my number 6 person is Chris Curtis. I feel like I've never talked about Chris Curtis on this channel, and then like the past 2 or 3 videos, I've mentioned him every single time.
Middleweight's been getting a lot of love in these recent videos.
Well, and hate, because
it's actually all been hate.
It's just attention. But with Chris Curtis, I mentioned this in another video. He's just one of those guys where, you know, he'll go up against Roman Kopylov, and I think he trains with better people. He has a better gym. He has more experience. And then what do you know? He's head kicked on the floor at the last second of the 5th round.
Yeah.
Or the 3rd round. I think it was a main event, so I think it was 5th round. But he makes decisions that make no sense. He's one of those fighters where if he gets hit in the cup or something, he'll look at the ref and be like, yo, are you going to stop this? Like, he's one of those fighters.
Yeah.
It feels like he never wants to be in there. And so I can never trust that he's going to get the job done, you know? I feel like he's very much an emotion fighter, which doesn't bode well for parlays. You need someone who's cold and calculated like Carlos Prates, all right? Let me tell you something about Carlos Prates right now. You don't want to be picking Chris Curtis on your parlay. That is just a recipe for a disaster.
Yeah. All right, my next guy. A guy that has sold us in the past. I don't think he's ever sold us parlay wise, but we also do our predictions. Sold our predictions. Steve Ursig. This guy needs to be studied. His fall off. Mm-hmm. All right. How do you go to a razor close decision win with maybe the most dominant champion we have in the UFC? The next fight knocked out in the 1st round and just get dog walked after that. Mm-hmm. You know, like what is going on here? Like, surely this guy's got to win at some point.
I feel like he is better than everyone outside the top 5.
I think
Except maybe Manel Cap.
I think he's better than a lot of them, you know?
Even Amir Albazi is probably still better than.
But then you look at it and it's like, he fights Kaya Sakura, he fights Joshua Van, he fights Loner Kavanaugh. Who wins those fights? Because at this point, you don't know what level Steve Erceg actually is.
I just don't know how they messed up Steve Erceg's career so bad.
So bad.
He could have been one of those guys who could be champion, but...
And then it's like, oh, here you go.
Yeah,
well, that's what happens when there's no one in the top 8 that Pantoja hasn't beaten before.
Yeah, it is just the Pantoja difference.
Yeah, he's just built different.
Yeah.
Built different in Rio.
It's kind of like, I mean, too early to say this, but Dominic Reyes versus John Jones, where Dominic Reyes had a great performance.
Dude, I've seen so many TikToks and Instagram reels comparing Steve Erceg to Dominic
really?
Reyes. So many.
Okay,
so many.
I hadn't seen that. That was something I came up with off the top of my head.
So many.
That's crazy. Okay. My next fighter, number 5, is Sean Strickland. Now, Sean Strickland, I feel like he's duped us quite a few times. He duped us the first time against Izzy.
Yes.
Where one of the biggest upsets, I think the biggest upset that I've watched live, but in general of the sport, I think that and like Matt Serra beating GSP is two of the...
I think the top 3 is Matt Serra and GSP, Strickland Adesanya, and then Holly Holm and Ronda Rousey.
Yeah.
I think that those are the 3 biggest upsets in UFC history.
That's Cole, Kendrick, and Drake right there. That's the big 3, all right?
and Strickland likes him young.
Strickland's the Drake. But he also goes to decisions every time. So you're never going to be confident. If you have a parlay and your last leg is Sean Strickland by decision, you are never confident. You're like, okay, yeah, he won 4 rounds. And then you hear the first, you think he won 4 rounds. You hear the first scorecard read off, 49-46 Costa. What? That's crazy, bro. That I will never forget that moment for the rest of my life. I'll never forget Paulo Costa 49-46.
That was bonkers.
That was so crazy, dude. So Sean Strickland, never trust him on your parlay. That's the easiest thing I could tell you.
Yeah. All right, here's where my list starts to get good. Number 4, it's all of City Kickboxing. You cannot trust one of those guys to win you a fight.
No.
They are so bad, but will just continue to be the favorites, and then they'll get some robbery win like Carlos Alberg.
True. And they even have like Volk is kind of part of them as well now.
Yeah.
Not now. He's always been associated with them. So that's not looking good either.
Yeah, those Aussies, even I think maybe just all Australian fighter. Like if we take Kai Kara France in there too, it's like, oh, everyone bet Steve Erceg. Oh, there you go. There's Kai Kara France selling your parlay. They'll pull out the weirdest wins.
Yeah.
Those upset wins, they'll pull them out.
I kind of forgot that selling your parlay is also winning. Like you can also upset it by winning. I completely forgot about that.
The guys that just randomly get the dubs.
Yeah, that's a good point. Okay, my next fighter, number 4, is Dan Hooker.
I have more Australian fighters.
Dan Hooker is one of those guys where he'll drop back down he'll go on a crazy lightweight run, beating everybody, and then, take a loss to Dustin Poirier, probably get CTE for the rest of his life after that. And then he'll have a couple losses, and you're like...
Yeah, he'd lose to a guy like Darnouche.
And then you'll go back down to featherweight, and then you'll get, like, some losses, and you're like, was he ever good? Like, it's wild to me that Dan Hooker has lost. Like, if you look at his resume and you look at his losses, it's like, this dude's losing to everybody. And then he'll get a win over Gamrot. Like, who does that?
Gamrot, like, maybe is the most underrated 9-ranked fighter. Like, beating, all the top Gs. Like, he's beaten the Darnouches. He's beaten the Armins.
Sarukian.
Yeah. He's beaten the number 1 contender, but... loses to a guy like just such a weird career path for that guy too,
honestly. And wasn't there someone else that he beat? Like he's beaten more than that.
Yeah,
he's beaten so many good guys.
Well, I mean, and this is the guy that sold our parlays personally. We've both had Gamrot. Hooker comes and sells the parlays.
Yeah, Hooker's just one of those guys where he either turns up and he's on it, or he turns up and gets beaten up for 5 rounds. And I would have loved to see that Gaethje fight. That would have been great, because I could have actually gotten 2 guys who sell the parlays.
One of them can. I mean, technically the one guy could sell both sides of it.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, my number 3, another guy, more Australian fighters, but this is the Tafas and the Tuivasas. Sorry, the Tafas and the Tuivasa.
Yeah, where's the other Tuivasa?
He's the size of 2. But here's the thing with these guys is, for some reason in my head, I have not accepted the fact they are on like an 8-0 losing streak.
Oh my goodness.
Combined. So I continue to bet on them. And when I say bet, I say predict, in our predictions. I continue to predict these guys, okay?
Oh, you have to.
But they'll lose. Junior Taffa versus Teixeira.
But when you don't predict them, they'll win.
Yeah. Junior Taffa versus Teixeira. Oh, no way this Teixeira guy wins. I needed to do more research because when I saw that 6'7" beast walking out, I knew I was done for, But no, give me Junior Taffa, you know.
They also just walk out with no aura, you know? Those fat guys.
Oh, they rely on the post-fight aura.
Yeah.
But they don't win.
Yeah. The shoey aura.
Yeah.
All right. My next fighter, number 3, it's got to be Derek Lewis. Now, Derek Lewis, the biggest power puncher in the UFC, probably. Like, he's just known for that. But if you go back and you listen or you look at his resume, he'll have a win over, like back in the day, Francis Ngannou, Alexander Volkov, Marcin Tybura. This guy went on a crazy run to fight for the belt and then lose to Daniel Cormier, lose to Junior Dos Santos, lose to Cyril Gane, lose to Tai Tuivasa, lose to Pavlovich, lose to Spivak. Like, this guy's lost to everybody, but he'll beat like the hardest opponents.
Yeah,
you know?
And then they'll be like an up-and-comer.
Yeah, exactly.
Derek Lewis locks in.
Exactly. He'll just stand up and KO you.
It's the definition of heavyweight UFC.
I think it was the Volkov fight where he's down for the entire fight, and then his corner's like, his corner gave him a crazy pep talk. He was like Leon Edwards. This dude was the original Leon Edwards, all right?
Come on, Derek! Come on!
His coaches are English now?
Come on, Derek.
There you go.
Get it done.
Yeah. I love Derek Lewis, man. When's this dude fighting next? Come on.
Individually, probably the biggest parlay seller in the whole UFC. Most unpredictable guy. You just can't bet on this guy in 2025. Kevin Holland.
Yeah. Yeah.
You don't know if this guy's going to come out and look like prime Hamzat, like just absolute beast. Like, him and Hamzat were running the league for a little bit, you know? They were Curry and LeBron during COVID,
They really were.
Fighting every week. And then you just have him go on like that skid where he lost to Delice with the rib injury, and then he just got mauled by Delice and then by RDR. Mm-hmm. But then you have him coming back and he gets the dub. He is so unpredictable with this what this guy can do. Like,
it's also because he moves weight classes as well.
Literally, I like what he said about how he can't keep up strength wise with the middleweight wrestlers.
Yeah, obviously.
So hopefully we don't see him fight a middleweight wrestler. But next thing next week we're gonna have fight news. He's fighting
Carlos
Brennan
Prates.
Allen. He's gonna fight Brennan Allen.
Yeah.
And just get mauled. Like, literally, Kevin Holland, you have a better chance of predicting a flip of a coin, heads or tails, than a Kevin Holland fight, because you don't know what's gonna happen.
Mm-hmm. I'd say that's pretty accurate. Yeah. I feel like Roman Dolidze has like twice the bone density of Kevin Holland. Like,
that dude's thick.
Yeah, he's just so
he looked way bigger. This guy's weighing in at 180 pounds.
Yeah. All right, my next fighter, second last. I'm interested to know who you have first, because I surely thought Kevin Holland was your number 1. But my second fighter is Cody Garbrandt. The GOAT. The GOAT of selling parlays. He was that guy at bantamweight. And then he wasn't that guy in the span of like 4 months. Mm-hmm. It's crazy how much he fell off. And he even got the rematch against Dillashaw, I believe. And then he lost that one as well. So you're looking at his early loss and you're like, all right, this is valid. And then he starts losing to nobodies and getting brutally knocked out. But also he'll have a performance where he looks like he's prime Garbrandt again, Yeah. He has that one punch KO power in bantamweight, which is super rare. And he has good head movement and good boxing, but it just feels like some part of his brain is disconnected, and that's the part of the brain that he needs to win. Yeah. And sometimes it'll it's like one of those cords that like it's like frayed, and it's like your iPhone charger that only works sometimes.
You gotta like twist it around.
Exactly, yeah.
Oh, got it.
And when it's in, it's in. It's in. Yeah, that's Cody Garbrandt for you. When he's in, he's in.
Yeah. All right, I need to tell a story for my first place.
Okay.
So, you're a young lad. You've just downloaded Bet365, and you're cooking up a UFC parlay. You're putting in all your favorite fighters, and you're at like plus 800 odds. But you're like, oh, I want to get to plus 1,000.
Yeah.
So you scroll and you find, this guy's minus 800.
Safe.
Who's this guy? Oh, undefeated minus 800 prospect. Let me add him to the parlay. Everything hits, but earlier on in the night on the early prelims, this guy with a 0 in 2025 lost. Whoa. What? How could he lose? So you do it again the next week. Make a parlay. Oh, just to sweeten it up a little bit, get a little bit more money, a couple extra dollars. We're going to add another undefeated prospect with a 0. Oh, minus 650. Surely he'll win. No. Next week you do it again. Another undefeated prospect. Add him, sweeten up the parlay. He loses again. You cannot add an undefeated prospect to your parlay in 2025.
No.
At this rate.
No. I think the only one to win is Loner Kavanaugh.
Basically, out of the big names, he's the only one.
Mm-hmm.
Quick pick Markin.
Yeah, that's another one.
That was an undefeated guy.
I think 2 undefeated fighters at...
It's every card.
It's every card, yeah. It's crazy. I would never bet on an undefeated fighter in 2025.
Because you're not getting good odds. Like, Tarkin was worth it because he was like even odds with Tibera.
Yeah.
But like throwing in those minus 800s, this rate, you stay away from those guys.
Yeah. Even Gene Matsumoto, what they did to my boy, they massacred him. I hate Rob Font, bro. All right, my number 1 fighter, it's Kevin Holland. Not much more to say. The dude is the biggest seller of all parlays. Like you said, it's 50-50. You'd get better odds with a coin flip.
Yeah.
100%, bro. We said this in our last Kevin Holland fight. We did the fight night predictions for London, and I said, I will predict Kevin Holland every time until I get him right, because it's going to hit. It's going to hit eventually.
You just keep on.
Yeah.
You add more and you add more. You're doubling down.
Exactly. Like, he's one of those fighters who he has it in him to win. Mm-hmm. He's technically skilled in every part of the game. Great striking, good jiu-jitsu, can hold it down on the ground, good range control. I don't know. I just feel like the fall off has started with MVP. Like, the major fall off started with MVP, and then after that, it's just been downwards ever since. Gunnar Nelson, like, thank goodness he beat him.
Oh, if you would have lost to Gunnar Nelson.
But we were saying the same thing. It's RDR,
Yeah.
Like, if he loses to RDR, the dude's cooked.
And now you don't know how good RDR is going into this Bo Nickel fight.
Oh, great. Bo Nickel losing his O. Finally.
He probably will, honestly, at this rate.
At this rate, for sure.
But that's going to wrap it up for us today. Make sure you guys go down to the comments. Let us know, who are the fighters that have sold your parlays before? We want to hear about it.
Also, let us know if you bet or not. I want to know how many people bet on UFC.
Are you guys big bettors?
Are you 50-50 like me and Dylan? Big better, not big better?
I'm not a big better.
Well, you bet.
The 50 cents that Bet365 gives me for free once a month.
You degen.
Yeah, you got me. I don't know the last time I actually deposited in that app, though.
Sure.
Probably was yesterday. But that's going to wrap it up. Make sure you guys like and subscribe. We appreciate all the love and support, and we'll see you guys next time. Peace.
See ya.